Hello, I'm Ikkcicle. I'm going to build a floating skull for no reason. I just had the idea and I really want to give it a go. What I'm going to use in this build is basically just the bone block to build the skull. Later on I'm going to put some pink coral as a brain in a glass tank with water, because that's fun. There's not many mods in this. I've got connected glass installed and I'm using the BSL shaders, which are completely free. To start the build I'm going to make the jaw, the teeth, the nose and the eyes. I think that's a good place to start. And this guy is looking a bit more like a monkey, isn't he, at the minute? Why not? Let's go with that. It's a monkey skull. Yeah, he's really cool. Once the teeth are finished, I've got to start expanding the cranium. He's got to have a really, really big head because he's got a big brain sitting atop of this cranium, kind of. It's going to be built in, but what I've got to do right now and concern myself with is getting all of the proportions right, in quotes, of this skull. It's got to look decent. I want to have an imposing skull floating in the universe somewhere. And it's not easy. I really don't know how 3D modelers do it. It's one of the most difficult things in the world. I'm not going to start with a giant block of bone and chip it down. I'm not Michelangelo. I'm Ikkcicle. I usually build houses and fun things. And this is a fun thing, isn't it? It's a skull made of bone and nothing else. Look at the background. How has the BSL shaders done this to me? It's all orange and blue. It looks lovely. It looks lovely. I actually had to disable the clouds, otherwise you can't see the skull. It's very weird if you leave the clouds on. Getting the proportions right and the symmetry is the key to building this thing, and I'm struggling mirroring the sides. Both sides need to be equilateral. Is that the word? Equilateral? Either way, it's got to look the same on both sides, otherwise he's had some kind of injury in his life. And that is not what's happened to Mr. Skullface. He is just a regular guy who died in the clouds, rather large somehow. Yeah, and it's difficult, it really is. What I'm doing at the minute is finishing off the mirror before I connect the cranium zone to make it a complete skull, at least a little bit. And now that this pincer of bone is coming to a close, I have a full skull to start building up. Now what that's left to do on the skull face is expand it down. I need to expand it so that all of the space is taken for the skull. Again, he's not had any injuries. He's had a nice, safe, quiet life, just like me. But I really don't want to be dead like this, although I do want a really large skull. Let me know in the comments if you also want a large skull. What does that even mean? But I'm trying to give you a large skull right now, aren't I? Come on, let's do this. I find it to be quite tricky to mirror it on each side, but I'm doing my best, going around all the sides, checking everything, making sure it all fits correctly. I say correctly, it's not a perfect skull. It's never going to be a perfect skull because I'm not a 3D designer, but I really do like making fun stuff like this skull. The problem that I'm facing now is how to expand the skull downwards. You'd think it'd be very easy because it's just a round ball, but guess what? Minecraft does not like round balls, does it? You can't make things circular very easily in this. So what I'm having to do is go around slowly, build it up a little bit, and then do the exact same thing on the opposite side, hoping that it looks the same, or at least similar. I think it looks pretty good so far. I'm trying my best. I really am trying my best. It's difficult, but this is a fun build. I'm really enjoying making this. See, what I'm trying to do here, look, is expand the back of the skull. I've got to make sure that sits nicely. I'm quite satisfied with how it's going. I think this is probably the biggest skull I've ever made in Minecraft, and it's the only skull I've made in Minecraft. You'll have to show me your skull builds if you've got one. Yep, it's leveling off quite nicely, and it's almost round, isn't it, really? I've done quite a good job with that. You have to let me know in the comments how bad this build is, please. Don't dislike it, though. Don't do that to me. I'd rather have some positivity on my crazy skull build. Now look, I'm trying to fill in the bottom part of this skull. That's also got to look excellent. There's a large hole that I just don't want. It needs to be filled in with bone. So what I'm going to do is go around each little line bit, measure it up on the left and the right, and then fill it in. The skull, if you didn't know, is not exactly round. My head is quite round in real life, and in Minecraft it's very cuboid. But the skull is not flush, there's so much muscle in there. I'm very muscular, you know, Ikkcicle is muscular. But the skull, after it's been in the clouds for many, many years, has suffered from muscular degeneration. There is no muscle now, oh dear. But what there definitely is an almost complete skull. I'm very happy with how that's gone. All I have left to do is fill in one little rectangle of bone. That's actually very easy to do because I don't want it to be too far down. Like I said, it's not exactly circular, otherwise it's very strange. Look, it's done. I think it's finished. The skull is finished. Yeah, that's really cool. It almost looks like a toilet from the back. I've made a toilet before in one of my videos, but it's not. It's not a toilet. How do I disgrace this guy's life? It's a skull. It's a skull of a man. He had a serious life. He was a noble. And on that bombshell, I'm going to finish the skull area before I start leveling it up. I don't want it to be too square at the back, And now I'm just going to quickly test out the teeth area a little bit. Maybe I need to change that. It's not exactly right. Fill it in with a bit of concrete, but no, it is exactly right. Now I'm going to level the entire skull area, and once that's finished, I can start adding the brain. Because, for some reason, he's not fully dead. He needs a glass enclosure, some would call it a fish tank, with a brain in there. So I select my simple connected glass, and then go around the entire thing, and put 2 levels of glass, and then just put it one closer, and then another 2 levels of glass. I think that's the simplest way of doing it. I made a dome tutorial in one of my shorts, but if I do that here, it's not exactly circular, so it looks really weird and it won't work. It took me a few goes to get this correct. But now he's finished, he's got the little dome on top. He looks very... yeah, he does look terrible. I'm going to fill the entire skull area with water because, you know, he needs a brain in there. And it's a very simple process. Once I've patched up those little holes, because the bone needs to look exactly right, I just simply use the bucket of water and apply it all over the skull on every single one of these layers. Adding water is always a very easy task once you get everything correct. Sometimes it can go horribly wrong and you hear those whooshing sounds. Now it's filled with water, I'm going to start adding the brain, and for the brain I'm going to use pink coral and something called bubble coral. I guess it refers to bubble gum colour. Doesn't matter, whatever, it looks really nice pink brain in there. He's still alive, he's still got some kind of life, which is not true because he's just a Minecraft block thing. There's no life, the only life is me talking to you. I kind of want to add some fish to this. I really wish I would. I should have added some fish to this. Why did I not do it? Anyway, the brain itself was very simple to install. It doesn't displace any of the water, and it looks good. I'm just going to pop back in and add some soul sand because his brain is bubbling. He's thinking. He's thinking about how you should subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this video. The skull itself is finished now, the brain is in place, everything looks good. All that's needed now is a spinal column with nerves and bone endings. I think that would be a remarkable addition to my skull. So for that, I'm going to use red concrete and blue concrete. The red is the blood and the blue is the veins that spiral around this entire column thing. It really adds an extra level of weirdness, and so does the miniature spinal column, which I'm going to add. He is complete. I say he, it's just a skull, I think. But now I'm going to test it at night time. I could have put some lights in it, don't you think? A couple of sea lanterns would have looked good in there. But I'm very happy with how it's turned out. Like the video if you've liked it, subscribe, send me a comment if you really want to, and I'll try and get back to you as quick as I can. I'm Ikkcicle. I made a floating skull with a brain and spinal column for no reason. I'll see you next time.